Okay. Good day to you, Iman. This is our first session on system thinking in Scrum. We'll see if more people join, then they are welcome. Otherwise, I'll try to present it as quickly as possible so that we can discuss later on. Hamza is a community that we just started. We wanna discover better ways of working. And since Scrum is very synonymous with agility, it's one of the most popular framework, then we thought we're going to start with that. And then the next sessions are going to depend on what everybody is interested in. We do have these sessions in English, Arabic, and in French so that different people can tune in to the one that they're interested in. The first topic that we're going to discuss is basically system thinking in Scrum. Now, Scrum as a framework in its development uses a lot of system thinking, but a lot of the people implementing Scrum may not necessarily be aware of the first principles behind it. So that creates a lot of problems in the implementation. So here we want to just highlight how system thinking can be useful in a better implementation or in improving your implementation of Scrum. So to start, just a quick intro on Scrum. It's a lightweight framework. In the guide, it says it's purposely incomplete. That means you cannot just take Scrum and work with only Scrum and be successful. The expectation is that you are incorporating other best practices that you've learned from somewhere else. In a sense, it's a way to optimize the work of the team, allow them to be autonomous, allow them to basically be more agile, and at the same time give a bit of visibility or predictability to management. It's a process that basically generates or transforms an input, which is a product backlog, into an increment at the end of each sprint that we want to basically add value to the customer. What I want to focus in today, because not enough time to go into Scrum in details, is the roles of Scrum. We basically have a PO, a Scrum Master, and a Div. Developers are basically everyone that develops the work. So that includes testers, that includes designers, business analysts, anybody who's necessary to deliver a product or to develop the work in a product is called a developer within the Scrum framework. And the key concept that I want to focus on for this session is the idea of a cross-functional team. What does it mean? And before we dive into a little bit more details of that, we're going to try to look at the other side of the equation, which is what is a system? And very simple definition is we call something a system when we have two or more interconnected elements that serve a common or unique purpose. So in a sense, when we say the education system, it has basically schools, it has teachers, it has students, it has people working in the ministry, it has the actual building that is the school. All of these elements are interconnected, they're not independent, and at the same time, they are working towards the same objective. Yes, Scrum is a framework in Agile. It's a way to implement or to incorporate elements of agility within how a team works. Basically, it's a lightweight framework that focuses on how the team needs to organize their work in order to deliver value. And one of the key, as I said, one of the most important things for Scrum is to have a cross-functional team. Now, to highlight why a cross-functional team is important, we're going to talk a little bit about the system. If we have, for example, let's say I have here a cup of water, and I have my phone. Maybe, yeah. So a cup of water and my phone. These are two elements, but I can't think of a purpose that they serve together. So in a sense, it wouldn't make much sense to call them a system. Whereas if I have two things that are working together, they are connected and they have a common purpose, then it makes sense to call it a system. Whether that system is basically a car, where we need all the parts within the car, whether this is the digestive system, we need a bunch of organs working together in order to deliver value for us. So at the end of the day, when we have more than two elements that are connected and they serve a purpose, we can start talking about a system. But what's the use? Why do we even want to talk about systems? Systems have certain properties. Now, one of the properties of a system is the wholeness. So, in a sense, for example, a car is a system that serves the purpose of transportation. It takes you from one place to another. Now, we need the whole of the car in order to be able to achieve that benefit. You cannot basically transport yourself using the wheels alone. You cannot transport yourself using the chairs alone. You cannot transport yourself using the engine alone. You need the whole system to basically deliver the value that's useful for you. Second property of a system is interdependence. That means the behavior of one tire, for example, can affect how you feel when you're sitting on your chair. The behavior of the engine can affect the performance of the tires. Everything is interconnected. The behavior of one element has effect on the whole system and has effect over the other elements. Emergence. Basically, once we group all the elements of a system together, we start to get value that we cannot get independently from just one of these elements. And again, if we use the case of a car, once we group all of these elements together, now a new property emerges of this group of items. Once we connect them in the right way, a new property emerges, which is that now we can basically take you from point A to point Z. And purposefulness is that we have an objective that anything we add to the car, we add it with the purpose or with the objective of improving our ability to transport ourselves from one point to another. So these are the properties that are interesting for us to look out for in a system. Now, when we start talking about a team as a system, ideally, when we're forming teams, the key thing that is mostly being discussed are the individuals, because we need these set of skill sets, and each individual brings in a set of skill sets. And sometimes we even add in a purpose if we basically are being a little bit more thorough. But what we sometimes forget is the connections. So sometimes we're not necessarily using system thinking when we are creating a team. Now, that basically causes us to lose a bit on the value, because if we design the team as a system, we get the properties of a system. We want wholeness, which is we want to design a good team. That means we want to design a team in such a way that if we remove one person, we're not getting the same value as if we had everybody. So situations that don't know if you've worked with development teams before, but there are sometimes companies that group, for example, backend developers together into a team, or group designers together into a team. Now, that type of grouping, it has some value, but you also lose the idea that you need the entirety of the team to deliver the value. So that team is not really exhibiting the properties as distinctly, the properties of a system as distinctly. So it is better, for example, to have cross-functional team, whereas you need everybody in the team to deliver that value that you've defined. If you find yourself in a situation where you can deliver the same value with half the team or with 1/4 of the team, chances are maybe you have too large of a team, or maybe you haven't really identified a good objective, or the individuals within the team are not cross-functional enough to deliver a unique value. Interdependence. Every member in the team their behavior, their performance should affect every other member of the team, and it should also affect the quality or the performance of the team as a whole. So in a sense, if we find ourselves adding people to the team who are not necessarily having any effect on the work of other people, or who are not, whose basically effort are not visible in the value that we are creating, or not integral to the value that we are creating, then probably we are creating a team that's not really going to operate as a system. Emergence. Uh, Again, if we have a very homogeneous kind of team where everybody's a backend developer, then grouping a bunch of backend developers is not really going to emerge new properties. They're not going to create something different. We're still just creating backend code. But if we have a team of designers, even getting a bunch of designers, it doesn't necessarily emerge a new property out of it. Whereas if we have a designer, a developer, and a tester, and maybe a salesperson together, then now we can talk about solving a customer problem. Whereas each of these individuals alone could not have solved the customer problem. So in a sense, we want to create a team such that property will emerge from forming the team. Otherwise, we are losing. We are paying a lot of the tax related to basically coordinating a team without getting the full benefit of a team that is acting as a system. And obviously, purposefulness. We need to have the same objective. Imagine we have a cross-functional team where we have a designer, a tester, a developer. And then at the end of the day, we are evaluating the tester based on how many tests he has executed. We are evaluating the developer based on how much code he has produced. And we are evaluating the designer based on how much design he has created. Now, in that situation, each person, each individual in this case, their objective is to pass the evaluation. Now, if they are in a situation where they're discussing a problem and the best solution perhaps doesn't require a lot of change in the design, or perhaps the best solution doesn't require a lot of changes in the code, or perhaps it doesn't require heavy involvement from testing. The individual, if they are interested in having a high evaluation, would resist an idea that is valuable for the customer, it solves the customer, and it is effective, but it will hurt him in terms of evaluation. So you have a situation where it's the same team, but each person has their own objective, which is separate from each other and can work against each other sometimes. So it is good to have a concept of an objective, and that needs to carry over in the way we are evaluating the team and members within the team. But we need to have an objective that's going to be common to everyone within the team. Now, this is the case where we want to design a team and we want to use properties of a system to design a better team. The situation we find ourselves most of the time is that we are working with a team. Somebody has already decided these people, this group of people, are a team together. So in this situation, everybody does the analysis where they look at, let me just move this a bit. It's not very easy to move. Okay. Yeah, everybody easily does the analysis where they identify these are the individuals within my team. I have a tester, I have a front-end developer, I have a designer, I have a back-end developer. They're all called developer within a Scrum system. Now, identifying the element is just the first step. What we need to identify is all the relationships. We need to identify what is the connection, what is the relationship between a tester and a front-end developer. How many relationships are there? How many types of interactions are they getting? Is it a one-way interaction? Is it a two-way interaction? Now, a lot of times, sometimes when you have a dysfunctional team, you'll have a situation where a developer might tell you, I don't need any interaction with the tester. Or much more common is the developer saying, we have no interaction with the designer and we don't need it. Just give us the wireframes and we will develop it. But reality is there is always that connection. It's just that they might not think of it and they might not value it enough. So if you are working within a team and you start realizing that maybe one of the individuals within the team is a little bit isolated. So applying system thinking here might be to try to see, okay, how is this individual connected to every other individual or every other group of individuals? Identify those connections, and you can enlist the help of the team to try to identify what type of value does a designer create when the front-end developer interacts with them. What type of value is created when a backend developer interacts with them? What type of value is created when a tester interacts with them? What type of value is created when a designer interacts with both a front end and a tester, or both a front end and a back end? So you can play with the components or the individuals within the team until whatever team you have, you will find a configuration that is that's a very easy case to make to your team, why this person is integral to you as part of the same team. Now, once they start valuing it and they start thinking of that connection, they will start anticipating that we might need this individual in these type of situation, and they will be more engaged. For example, when we have certain ceremonies in Scrum, like the sprint planning, if I value the interaction I might have with other people that I don't usually work with, but that are members of the team, I'm more likely to basically engage in a discussion on how we're going to arrange the work. I'm also more likely to be interested in hearing what they have to say during the day stand-up. I'm also more likely to be willing to listen to whatever feedback they might have for me, or to even provide feedback for them, because the key thing is I have to see that there is value to that interaction. And a lot of time, the implementation of Scrum skips that step, where we come and we have a bunch of events, we have a bunch of outputs that we need to create, but we don't necessarily take the time to make the case for the developers why this interaction is worth the time or not. But I believe a better way to implement Scrum or any type of framework is first explain what the connection is, try to show the value of that connection is, make sure everybody buys into the idea that there is value in me collaborating with this person. Me collaborating with this person is not just a waste of my time. There is value that I gain if we end up collaborating. Once you have that, you'll find that there is a lot less resistance when you try to implement something specific. Yeah, now I tried to keep this a little bit generic just so that we pass through, but the idea is that you can think of the team as a system working inside a bigger system, which is the department, working inside a bigger system, which is the company, and the company works inside a bigger system, which is the industry. The industry works in a bigger system, which is the country, and then the world. There is almost no limit to how high you can go. It's up to each team to decide what level of system thinking or system mapping is necessary for them to deliver better value.